think the most challenging thing we have when we talk about passion and just how you're so all in on something, man, you just want to like be able to instill that in someone else. If they could just feel what it feels like. But we know the hardest part is opening that front door for the first time. So it's just, the more times you can hear that, it just reinforces why we do what we do. And it's been 7 years and we love our jobs more today than we ever have before. Our only hope is that they share that with other people and we can impact more lives.
Welcome back, you guys, to another episode of the Beyond the Scale podcast. Today we have Tom and Katie at Richardson Fit Body Boot Camp. Tom and Katie have been the proud owners since 2016, and they have helped members lose over 27,000 pounds since opening. Richardson Fit Body is one of the top 10 most successful gyms in the franchise. Tom serves on the coaching and profitability team at Fit Body HQ, where he coaches other franchise partners in their business. So welcome, Katie and Tom.
Thank you
so much.
We're excited to be here.
Yes, well, I'm excited to dive into your journey on how you even got started with the brand. And we were chatting a little bit before the podcast. I didn't realize, so Tom, this was your venture in the beginning.
Yes, it was.
And then Katie joined you a few years in.
Yeah.
And my husband and I, we do this together as well. And I know there are so many challenges that come along with working together as a couple. So we are going to dive into that today. So if anybody listening works with their significant other, or you're thinking about it, it's challenging. It's hard at times, but it's so rewarding. And you get to be like in the same vision. You have the same vision and same mission for your family and do that together. So I think, we're going to talk a lot about that today. So first, let's just start with how you even got into Fit Body and into fitness.
Sure thing. So I always wanted to do two things in my life. I always wanted to own a business and fell in love with fitness in my teenage years. And you had a regular job. I went to school for criminal justice and then worked in the security world for quite some time. And then it's a bit of a sad story, but it's also a great story. In 2014, my brother passed away at 33 years old. And that was really gave me sort of the kick in the pants to say, life is short. I've always wanted to do something different with my life, but never had a reason or the guts to do it. So I'm sure most people have lost somebody in their life, and you have that thought of, wow, life is short, I should really go do the most. But for me, it just didn't go away. It was like this, it just kept eating at me. And for years prior to that, every single year I would go on the computer at my other jobs and look into becoming a personal trainer. But I never went forward with it because I had a full-time job, a career, we had a house, married, all the things. And just thought, well, how would I do this? Do it part-time on the side, it didn't make sense. And I knew that I didn't want to just be a coach or a trainer, not that there's anything wrong with that. I wanted to go all in. And went and got certified as a personal trainer, which was sort of the first step. But then I thought, well, what am I going to do? How do I find the business? Started looking online, found Fit Body Boot Camp. The model matched exactly what I had in my mind. And with the love and support from Katie and lots and lots and lots of conversations about worst case scenario, what's the best could happen, what's the worst that could happen, we moved forward with it and opened our doors in 2016.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Talk about your mindset at that time. Like you talked about, okay, worst case scenario, what's going to happen? Were you scared, nervous, more excited than scared?
I was more excited than scared. I would say Katie was maybe the opposite.
Yeah.
Okay. We really took our time and looked at it, and the worst case scenarios conversation went like this. Okay, what's the worst that's going to happen? I leave my job. She keeps her job. We open the gym. Nobody signs up.
Yeah.
It's a disaster. We have to close shop, okay? We're gonna owe money to the rent, we'll figure that out. Owe money to the franchise, we'd figure that out. We'd sell the house, right?
Yeah.
Sell the house.
You went deep.
Yeah, we did. We did.
Move in with her parents, and I go get a job.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm 32 years old at the time.
Yeah.
Didn't seem like that big of a deal to me
Right.
if it didn't go right.
Right.
Yeah.
I love
And then
that.
also thinking about, and I can't even, and we'll get into this, like I couldn't even imagine then how great our lives could be. So man, looking back on it, we were
Right.
thinking so small because we just hadn't dealt with anything big yet in life.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like you can go through life like finding your excuses and making the excuses, but when you find your reasons for doing something, that's like when it really speaks to you. And that's, Tom's passion for it, his reason for it was ultimately, why I could get behind it too and support him. Because, wanting to make that big life change was like, okay, like here's how I thought our life was going to go. And now we're going to be entrepreneurs and business owners. That's a whole different path. And it opens up so many different avenues for you when you become an entrepreneur.
Definitely. And to your point, I mean, I had the great fortune of attending a boot camp session at Richardson this morning. And at the end of the session, you awarded someone a t-shirt for hitting 1 year with you guys, and then a bracelet for 100 sessions.
Correct.
I was working out with a lady who had been a member since you opened. She battled breast cancer for a year, took a year off for that, came back. She's been a member for over 7 years. She's almost 60 years old, has 5 grandchildren. Like, her story alone was inspiring me so much. And to think, you could have talked yourself out of it.
Oh, yeah.
You could have said, oh, well, what if we have no members? I think it's too big of a risk. Let's not do this.
Yeah.
Well, look at you now, to over 27,000 pounds you've helped people lose in your community, and that spills out to every other area of their life. It's just truly incredible.
Yes, thank you
Really
so
is.
much. We couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I tell our members all the time, we will never get tired of hearing their stories and their impact. Our only hope is that they share that with other people and we can impact more lives. Because I think the most challenging thing we have when we talk about passion and just how you're so all in on something, man, you just want to especially with fitness, you just want to be able to instill that in someone else. If they could just feel what it feels like. But we know the hardest part is opening that front door for the first time. So it's just the more times you can hear that, it just reinforces why we do what we do. And it's been 7 years, and we love our jobs more today than we ever have before. And that just continues to happen because of stories like that.
Yeah. That's incredible. And I too reflect sometimes on my entrepreneurial journey, and I think to myself, well, what if I would have opened a coffee shop or a restaurant? And it would be, to me, the same old thing over and over. But for us, we have new clients come in every single week. So we get to see someone new every week completely change their life with fitness. So it never gets boring. It's never repetitive because it's always someone different.
Right, and you always have a different impact on somebody, and in ways you don't know. So, like, for example, Tom is very involved in our community and in this community leadership group called Leadership Richardson. And one of our members has had an incredible weight loss journey. Her consistency has been incredible, her commitment to her nutrition. But her boss, or her boss's boss, approached Tom at an event and said, I don't just see the physical change in her, I also see the mental, emotional change.
wow.
Like she's a different person in the office, and just the way she comes into work is just different. And I just think that's such a big thing and she didn't realize that. I gave her the compliment. I was like, I just want to let you know, like, it's not just us seeing your change, like everybody sees your transformation. And she's like, really? I would have never thought. And so just hearing that and seeing that we can help provide that for people is just incredible.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it so much. Well, let's chat briefly about working together as a couple, because I know that it's very rewarding, but it also has its challenges. And this very much started as your thing, and then you came in. Talk to me about how you figured out that dynamic working together and what your strengths and weaknesses are as a couple working together.
Go ahead.
So I came in about 2 years into it. I had made the decision to leave my job. I gave them like a 6-month runway. And then in that 6 months, found out we were pregnant.
Oh, wow.
And we were like, a lot of changes. And in the back, like my super conservative side, like stay on path, said, okay, maybe you shouldn't leave just yet. Like take a maternity leave, like stay at the job and stay safe.
Right.
And then I was like, no, that's not, like that isn't our plan. That's not where we're going. So we proceeded. I came here full time. My background is in project management, account management. So I was really into the operation side of things, whereas Tom was obviously the visionary for the business, very much our sales, our marketing. So when I came into the role, it was like, okay, let's write up some SOPs. How do we do things? How do you make sure you never run out of toilet paper? Just like things like that. And how are we tracking people's rank ups? How are we communicating with our team? Like all these things, we just I helped slowly implement over time with the help of a great team. And then of course Tom too. And then so Tom kept being the visionary and kept bringing the ideas and that entrepreneurial spirit where I was more just on the operation side, the procedures, the processes.
Yeah, I think like many small businesses, or unfortunately, I would say many businesses, maybe you've experienced this at home in your workplace, is tribal knowledge. When we first started, it was me and a couple of part-time coaches. All of the knowledge and the how-tos lived in my head, right? Nothing was written down. And that can serve you for a bit of time, but then thinking about growth and bring on team members, and the important part there is like training new team members, right? At first, it was literally, I had to spend every second with them explaining everything, and it was only as good as what I told them versus having down a written procedure. So for any business owners out there, or even in your jobs, if you ever struggle with team members and training and thinking about growth and scalability, the operations is so important. Katie is 100% without a doubt the reason that we were able to grow the way that we have and have the success that we have, because of that operational side. You need both. You need the visionary, hey, let's go do big things, here's what I want to do, but you need that, here's how we're going to do it, and let's bring it back down to where we are right now. What's the next step that we have to take, and build that foundation so then the growth can actually happen. Because if we were still operating the way we were when I opened the doors, things would be a lot shakier than they are now. Yeah.
Well, and wouldn't you say delegating after you've been doing so much on your own is very challenging in the beginning? I experienced that too, is all the ideas and the plans and everything that we were doing lived in my head as well. And so we very much started in the same way. My husband kind of came in 2 years later as well, started helping me more on the back end. And I would come home and he would grill me. He'd be like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing it this way? You need to coach this person on that. And I'm like, I have it handled. I got it. And then I realized, if we're ever going to grow, if we ever want to scale, if I ever want to have more free time, I need a real process. It needs to be written down. I need to learn how to train other people. And it is very challenging when you do have this vision, and it's exciting and fun for a little bit in the beginning, and then you realize, okay, I can't do this forever.
Absolutely.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and I think, in the beginning we had challenges communicating and like keeping the stuff that was at home out of the office, and just like the same, the communication is huge in a marriage. And so we grew so much. We were new into our marriage in a sense. So working together those first couple weeks, I remember like having like some sit down conversations. Like I was upset or offended by something he said, and then just really getting down to the nuts and bolts. Like, we're here, we're running a business together, and this is how we do it. And then we proceeded to keep up with our own self-development. So we did lots of books, lots of podcasts together, and we would listen to the same thing. So we were hearing it the same thing at the same time, and we could come back and, kind of, with each other review it and just like really break down, like, what did you hear, what did I hear, and how can we apply that?
Create a plan.
Yeah, and I don't know if we want to get into sort of relationship advice today on this on this podcast, but it's so, I mean, it just equates so much to just real life. Most folks out there are probably working in two different arenas, two different areas, and then you come home and try to have that time together. Maybe you have some kids, and it's very challenging. And so I think the lesson you can learn from that, from what we've been through, is that communication is key, and understanding each other, and having a weekly life meeting. It's helped us so much. Every Thursday we meet. In the first half we talk about the business and what's happening the following week, and then the second half we look at our schedules and everything that is going on in our lives to make sure that we're on the same page. Because now with our son, it's there's a lot that's going on. So important, communication. And I'd say on top of that, the more important thing is having a vision for your life.
Yeah.
I don't know that we had that before. I think we kind of did, like, oh, we're going to work till retirement was really the only plan. So just always revisiting that, always looking back at that and just checking in, are we working towards what our vision of our life is going to be? I think it's easy to compare yourself to other people, so recommend that you don't do that and find out what is really important to you. And the beauty of life, MK and I were talking about this before with business ownership, is you get to kind of create and figure out what you want your life to look like. That is a gift and a curse, because sometimes you're working towards something and you're like, actually, this thing's happening. I thought I wanted it and now I don't. So the same thing is true in your life, even if you're not an entrepreneur, is as you're working towards certain things in your life, just keep checking in. Is that what you truly want? And if it's not, that's okay. You can course correct, but you can't, if you don't have a vision, you're not working towards something, you won't know if you're working towards it or not. Yeah.
That is so powerful. It's such a great message for our listeners. And to your point, like, you know, you're doing it together as a couple, whereas, as you mentioned, most people are working in 2 separate jobs. You don't have a lot of time with your significant other, your family in the afternoon. Right. And I want to touch on that a little bit, about the flexibility that having a business together has allowed you to be with your son more. And we, like Trevor and I, feel incredibly lucky. Like, our kids both go to a day school for a few hours a day. We have that time to work on our business, but then also we feel like we have so much quality time with our kids compared to some of our friends that work in traditional 8-to-5 jobs. And like, I cherish this time so much with them, and I just couldn't imagine it any other way.
Yeah, I think it's huge. Like, if I go back 4 years ago when Bennett was first born, just like having that option to go home and be with him after we had gotten done running sessions for the day, spending that time with him and picking him up from school when I want, like if he's sick and he has to stay home, like we're staying home with him. So it's just, the flexibility is just incredible. And you know, we have spent the last 7 years building up our team too, so it can also give us that flexibility. Like, our team is just absolutely incredible right now. They just absolutely exude our vision and our mission, and so we know that if we do have to take some time off, if we do have to care for Bennett or whatever it might be, we really have that flexibility. It's great.
It's awesome. And I don't know that we would have spent as much time on leadership development and team development if we didn't have Bennett and have a reason to not
be here,
not be here as much and need that flexibility, which would have just caused the same problems in the long run, possibly, if it was still all on our shoulders all the time. And I want to hit on something you said before as far as letting go of things and delegating. Wow, yeah, very challenging still to this day, but that's where great training and trust and finding the right people makes all the difference in the world. But it's from building that strong foundation to start with. So yeah, that's always going to be a challenge. And then just back to what I said before about finding your life and what you want to be working on. Even with that, maybe you delegate something. Like for us at Fit Body Bootcamp, one of the first things we're taught to delegate as owners is hire coaches so they run the workouts.
Right.
And that sounds great on paper.
Yeah.
I love running workouts.
And you're great at it.
Thank you. I love it. So like, I don't want to let that go, but sometimes you put on that business owner hat and you're like, oh, well, I shouldn't be doing this. But guess what? It's okay to go back and pick that back up if it fuels you.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great point. And you do have to figure out what you're really, really good at. So for me, in the beginning stages of our business, as the owner, I was doing all the sales. Anytime someone would cancel, like any of the hard things I would do. And we quickly realized I wasn't the person for that, because I would take everything so personally. I would get very upset, be very passive aggressive about it. We had an amazing coach who he was like, oh, it's no problem. I'll call them on the phone. I'll talk to them. You're like, okay, he needs to do this. And so you do have to figure it out. And like, as a business owner, you do think that you have to do everything. You have to be great at it. And you actually need to find people that are better at it than you are, so that you don't feel like you have to do every single part of the business.
Right.
Yes.
Or else you're going to drive yourself crazy and you're going to experience that burnout that everybody, doesn't want to experience, but sometimes they do.
Yeah.
So I want to touch briefly on, you quit a very comfortable job, a lifestyle that you were used to. You have an MBA, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
I mean, you went to school for a long time to get that. And I speak to people all the time, and I know you do too, Tom, as well, people that are in a position in their life where they've had a comfortable career for, let's say, 15, 20 years, and they're considering Fit Body Bootcamp ownership or starting their own business. It could be a totally different business venture, but they're so scared to leave that comfort and that stability of their long-term job, their career they've worked so hard in, because of the financial reasons and how their lifestyle is going to completely change. What would you tell somebody that's like on the fence and they're nervous about it?
Oh, sure. If you're not nervous, it's not the right decision. It should scare you a little bit.
Yeah.
But you and I chat with folks that are thinking about opening a Fit Body Bootcamp, right? And that's usually the situation. They have a job, have a career, but something is burning inside of them to know, hey, I should do something else. And so the advice that I always give is, okay, so let's paint the picture. Right now at this point, you're in your career, 10, 12, 15 years, you've been doing it a long time. You know exactly what the rest of your life can look like. Rock and roll. If you like that and you're happy with that, stay with that. But if you have this burning desire and you're not happy with your career, is what's greater, right? The fear of what the rest of your life is going to look like, and you turn around one day and say, man, I regret things? Or the possibility of, and instead of thinking, what's the worst that can happen? What's the best that can happen? I always say, man, I had no idea what could happen when I opened the Fit Body.
Yeah.
But looking at what could happen in just 5, 6, 7 years to your life is incredible. So also flipping that, going back to what we talked about before with being afraid, instead of saying what's the worst case scenario, what's best case scenario?
Yeah.
Is the advice that I give, right? You have to have that pain of like change,
Yeah.
and to go for it.
Yeah, and so, Tom has like the very like passionate like answer in that, and I'm just like, I don't think I want to be running the same reporting to the same people, even if you're promoted in 10 years. And I've had great, incredible managers along the way, but it was like, do I want to do this? Is this going to speak to me 10 years from now? How can I grow from this too? The power to be your own boss is just something that you don't understand or don't realize until you are. And I'm like, oh man, this mistake, this report, it's all on me. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I am in full ownership of this. And so I also think like it really gives you that, freedom in your life and in your business. You are probably going to be, or everybody is their own worst critic, and they're the hardest on themselves. So if you live that way and you go into business, like, you're going to be successful if you keep your standards high. And I think that's a really big thing. And we have very high expectations of ourselves, of our team, and of how we run our business too.
Yeah, it's a gift and a curse, right? Everybody wants to be the boss until it's time to be the boss.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think, oh, you're a business owner, you just do whatever you want. Or like here, like, oh, you guys just work out all day, right?
Yeah. That's what my kids think.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
That's what Ben, I'm sure, thinks you do.
It's a lot more than that. And just like speaking of what Katie just talked about, the self-development side of things, we cannot hit on that enough. Whether you're a business owner or not, it's been the absolute game changer for us in our life. So again, watching at home, we talked about before about relationships. Something you hit on, which was fantastic, is if you have kids, you know this to be true, or even your wife or your husband, you might tell them the same thing 1,000 times, and maybe they don't listen, but then they hear it from a friend, or they hear it from somebody else, and then they start to do it, right? It's that parent voice that we have that it kind of gets lost sometimes. So when it comes to listening to books, listening to podcasts, being able to do that together so that neither one of us are right or wrong, we're hearing it from this outside source, and then we can discuss it. And it's always amazing too how she'll pick up things that I miss in the books, in the podcast, and vice versa, so that we get the most out of it. And then add in, we do that with our team as well, and then we can all discuss it, and everyone's getting different little nuggets. Super powerful.
Yeah.
Well, and what I want to, just hitting on like the podcast and self-development, like, don't overcomplicate it. It's not on Instagram where you have to do this every single day for 30 minutes a day and make sure you wake up and meditate. Like, it's not that. It's like, it's in the car because you had 5 minutes that you weren't on the phone or your kids weren't in the car, or it's that quick walk that you made around the block, or whatever it is. Like, it doesn't have to be this, I do it every single day, but it's just those habits you build up over time. And I think that's where we've been with it. Like, we go through weeks and weeks of listening to one podcast and we're just going bonkers over it, and then you take a break.
Right.
So it's just that development over time.
Yeah.
And recognizing your shortcomings, or if it's a business, recognizing what your team needs or something that's missing, and then finding that resource. Again, as a manager, if you're a manager out there, you can go and talk to your team about, hey, the reports need to be filed, or we need to do this for customer service, or there's that, and it might get lost on them. But if you bring in an expert, hey, let's all read this book together, again, not having that parent voice and having that outside source makes a big difference.
Yeah. It sounds like you guys are really good at self-reflection and just holding yourselves accountable. As a business owner, that is so challenging because, as you mentioned, it's like sometimes you start a business and then you realize, okay, I have to do everything. I don't want to do all of this. And there are going to be times where you don't want to do it, but you have to, and you have to hold yourself accountable for it because you're the one that started this. And you do get, I think as business owners, sometimes you get so busy that you forget to work on your own personal development. So you think, like, I don't have time, in total survival mode. Or on the flip side, you get so used to the day-to-day, you get bored, and then you experience that burnout, but it's really boredom. And if you don't continuously work on yourself, then you will get burnt out and you'll probably move on to something else.
Yeah.
And you're gonna look back and say, gosh, I wish I would have tried harder.
Yep.
And I think if you're always working on yourself, on your business, then you're not gonna feel like that. And as you mentioned, like you'll listen to one podcast for probably a few weeks and then move on to another one. And like there's always gonna be new stuff that you can use to spark motivation.
Yep.
Right.
And I love that you guys are not just doing that for yourselves, but you're also implementing that to your team and you're leading by example.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. So talk to me, you've had so many high moments. Is there like a low moment that maybe you've had as business owners that you could share that has been like a great learning experience
I get
for
that.
you too?
I get that question a lot
Really?
on our calls with potential owners. I don't have a great answer. Sure, there's been challenges, but they were all learning experiences and we're better for them. I would say the most challenging part of business ownership, the most challenging part of life, people, is people, right? They're the best, and sometimes they're not so much the best, right? And so I think our biggest challenges have been 100% our mistakes of maybe not bringing the right folks into the team, letting things go on for too long, not addressing the conflict or whatever it was, or the behavior or standards weren't being met, and not addressing that. And then on the other side would also be some challenges with members and maybe some missteps. Maybe we were passive aggressive or took something too personal and things like that. I would think would be the biggest, is the best part of what we do and the most challenging, right? You saw it this morning, people getting emotional and because they've been with us for a year and had back surgery and are coming back from cancer and changing their lives. That's the best part. But then unfortunately we can't reach everybody and we can't change everybody's possibly negative mindset.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I think leadership is the problem and the solution.
Right.
And so that's always like a hard pill to swallow when there's something happening under your leadership that isn't the way that you want it. So I would just say those are the low moments when you really have to take in that reflection and go, okay, that I could have done differently here.
Right.
I could have been more proactive on that, or I should have caught that before it happened. I think it's a lot of that.
Yeah.
That's where the low happens. But then there's so many highs that totally outweigh that.
Oh, definitely. I definitely agree with that because there have been times as a leader that I've experienced where a coach, something doesn't go like you thought it would, or a coach leaves you for a reason that you're like, whoa, that was all on me. I could have prevented this from happening, but yet I didn't realize it was happening. And then you're blaming yourself, but you do have to hold yourself accountable for it. But that is the most challenging part, is just, all fingers are pointing towards you as the business owner.
Oh yeah.
And as the leader.
1,000%.
But the important part with any misstep in life is to learn from it and not let it happen again.
Right.
And then what happens in our business is the team, because of that, just gets stronger and stronger and better because now when we're hiring somebody, we know the things to look out for. We're going to train them the right way. We have our core values. We have our mission. We have our values. And the expectation is just set a lot better than it was in the past. And so will we still have missteps? Yeah, for sure. But they're becoming a lot less negatively impactful to us because, and we're addressing it a lot sooner and recognizing it.
And I think the cool thing about Fit Body is the sense of community that you as a leader can help build. And it kind of like puts this barrier around your community, right? Like if you have incredible, amazing people on your team, incredible, amazing members, and they're all positive and they're shining, like they're going to attract those same kind of people. They're gonna or not reject, but they're gonna deflect the people that don't fit in, or those people that wouldn't have fit in now kind of see the bright side, right? So I think that's been a big help too, in keeping our high moments high,
Right.
And it takes time to get there, right? It takes time to build up your community, but before you know it, it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, your community and your culture is going to get built either intentionally or unintentionally, right? So recommend you're intentional about it, because otherwise, usually the negative energy is going to win if a culture is not paid attention to. So we worked really hard on. I mean, that's the reason for our successes. That was a number one focus from day one. Was like, how do we make the client experience amazing and build that community and culture? And Katie said, it's a time. It's time. And I always share that with gym owners or fit body owners as this is a time game.
Right.
You have to be around, stay open long enough that over the years you end up with a couple hundred people that are your community, are your culture, and it just takes time to build that up. But once you have it, like I said, you turn around 5 years go by and you're like, holy smoke. Sometimes in these workouts, I will stand in the corner and I'm like, wow, like this is exactly what I had in my mind, but it's even better than what I had in my mind, and it's actually really happening. It's incredible.
Oh yeah, it gives you chills.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah.
Like when you hear like the stories that I heard this morning from your members, and the lady that I worked out with, it's been here for 6 years. You said she owns a business down the street. So you know she's going into her business and telling everybody about what she does to feel and look that great. And that is how you grow your culture and your community and your business, is just by making one positive impact, and then that person just goes and makes another positive
and even if she doesn't tell people about her workouts or coming here, I know that she's leaving here in a positive state.
Right.
And she's just mentally going to be a brighter person for the day. And as you mentioned earlier in the intro, how it just kind of bleeds into everything that people do. It's not about the weight loss. It's not about the muscles. It's not about looking a certain way. Yeah, that feels good. But man, it's how it bleeds into every single aspect of your life, because what we focus on here is with the mindset coaching, with the accountability, with the positive place to be, not having a negative body image, what we call the non-scale victories. That's what really makes a difference. Yeah, sure, 27,000 pounds, it's awesome. But what about the hundreds of thousands of positive moments, and a mother going home and being better for her kids, or being better at work, or better for their husband or wife, and having, turning someone else's negativity into a positive. They're holding the door for somebody else, or saying thank you when they're leaving because they're full of endorphins after coming in here.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Love it. Well, we could definitely talk about this more and more. I know we could. I want to do a quick little lightning round.
Love it.
I'm just going to fire off some fun questions for you guys. Okay. What's the one thing that you're most passionate about today? Both of you.
Bennett.
Different answer.
My son.
Your son?
Yeah.
Yeah, my son, and just, I'll give a different answer, just the future. The future's never been brighter and more exciting.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
And I love, we were talking before the episode, how just invested you are in like what your life looks like right now. And it sounds like to me like you're focused on the future, but you're very much living in the present. And I love that about you guys, because like I try to be that way too, because with your kids and you're watching your life just like go by so fast in front of your eyes. Like you're watching this little kid and you're like, oh my gosh, how is he almost 5? And you have to be focused on being present, but then you're also focused on the future as well. And it's a very hard balance at times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What's the best advice you've ever received as a business owner?
Well, mine actually comes from Bedros, because sitting in the university, I went with Tom despite not being necessarily a partner just yet with him in the business, but it was just to take massive action. Don't sit in indecision. So I think that speaks to so many things in your life. It can speak to the people that are watching this thinking about opening a Fit Body. Make that decision. It is so much worse to be in that indecisive state. It is so much more uncomfortable and unsettling and stressful. Just let it go and make that decision. You can course correct later.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah, it's going to be business advice, but also life advice, and that is that comparison is the thief of joy. So easy in the world that we live in to compare ourselves to other people and where we think we should be. I would recommend you remove should and shouldn't from your vocabulary. Anytime we say, I should be doing this, it's a negative thing, and usually that comes from comparing ourselves to somebody else. So in our business, not comparing myself to other Fit Body owners and getting what we call shiny object syndrome. We keep the main thing, and double down and triple down on what is the most important thing that's right in front of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, what is one personal habit that contributes to your success?
I think it's daily workouts. For me, I have to get them done in the morning, and it just sets the tone for my day. We plan our weekends around our workouts. We plan our days around our workouts. That's it. It makes me a better parent, makes me a better wife, it makes me a better leader. Those endorphins are released. I feel accomplished for the day. I feel like I'm working towards something.
Samesies,
Same.
right? Building that credibility with yourself, doing something, keeping that agreement with yourself, doing something when no one else is watching. You could slack off on your workout. You could skip it. Nobody's holding you accountable. You got to get out there, get your workouts, move your body, build that credibility with yourself.
Okay, aside from workouts, do you have any life hacks or any health hacks?
Yes, sure, tons of them. We give them away every day. So like move every day.
Okay.
And then just eat as close to the earth as you can. If it comes out of a package, you probably don't want it. If you can just do those two things, your mental health, your physical health will be better. And plan for success. Like plan out your weeks. It doesn't have to be that you spend 15 hours meal prepping. Keep it simple, because that's where your success is going to be. And simple is something as simple as moving more, eating as close to earth as possible, and then just plan for that success.
Totally. Keep it simple. Find what works for you. Again, don't compare yourself to something else. Katie hit on this earlier. You don't need to have a 30-minute routine. Oh, I do this, and then I walk, and then I pray, and then I meditate, and then I take an ice bath, and then I take a hot shower. And then
Use the ice roller.
how do you have time for anything else, right? So keep it simple and find what works for you. Success is different for everybody. And don't do something just because someone else is doing it. Find what's going to work for you. And that just takes time, but what it does is it keeps you in your journey. Right, I could say, oh, we have everything figured out at Fit Body Bootcamp, and we're going to keep doing the same things we've been doing the same way forever. So it's not true, right? But continue to find how can we tweak and make things better, and what's going to make sense for us here at this location, and use that also in your life.
Yeah, I love that. And like what got your location to this point is not going to get you to that next level. So you always have to be evolving.
Yeah, the greatest enemy of future success is past success, because if you just rest on that, you're going to get stagnant.
Right, right. Okay, any books or podcasts that you would recommend to our audience that you listen to?
Ooh, everything. I know Tom's answer for a podcast already. You're going to recommend Craig Groeschel.
Craig Groeschel, Leadership Podcast.
Leadership, yeah. So a book that changed let's see. So a book that changed me, and I think really helped me on my self-development journey, was A New Earth. Just incredible. It sets the tone, talks about your ego, and just puts a whole different perspective on how you should be seeing yourself, how you should be seeing life. And
Yeah, amazing. So two for me, podcast, Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast, amazing. Even if you're not in business, it's so good. And then this book, Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill, absolutely number one on my all-time list. Revisit it about once a year, and it is similar to A New Earth, but will totally open up your eyes to life and yourself, and having a good relationship with yourself, and how to see the world. Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill.
Love it. Awesome. Okay, any parting pieces of wisdom that you would like to leave our audience with, or leave our listeners with?
Go ahead, Katie.
I don't know. I don't know what I have for the audience that I haven't already shared. So I guess just take massive action.
Take massive action. Yeah. I'm going to tell you this. Life is short. You get one chance at this thing called life. There is not a sequel. I'm sorry to tell you. You get to write your own story. You can be the hero in your own life. You can do anything you want in life. Here's the secret. Everything in life is pretty much made up. Okay? The rules in life are just kind of made up by people just like you and me. So you can go do whatever you want, and find that passion on something that you want to do and go for it. Think what's the worst that can happen, but what's the best that can happen, and go out there and get after it. We are two examples of just regular everyday people. Had jobs, have a son, married, the whole nine, and we took that leap of faith, and I know that you can do it too. And even if it's not changing your career, there's something right now in your life that you want to do. Go do it. I'm giving you permission to go out there and go do it and live the life that you want to live.
And that's why he's the visionary.
Yes, I love it. Straight from Tom's mouth. Go out and do it, you guys. Okay, one last question. What does living a life beyond the scale mean to you?
Ooh. Skip me for a second.
Well, when we talk about weight loss and the members at the gym, and even in your own life, living outside beyond the scale means finding different ways to measure your life. We're talking about weight loss. Don't worry about the scale. How's your life? How's your attitude? How's your relationships? How's your aura? How's your being? Do people want to be around you? Are you in a positive space? And then for your life, same thing. Try not to measure yourself by how much money you make, right? How are your relationships? How many friends do you have? Are they good? Even if you only have 2 friends, are they great relationships? How's your relationship with yourself? Do you love yourself? Are you happy with where you are in life? That is all that matters, because again, you're going to turn around and be 80 years old. Trust me, we run a program called Fit Body Forever with folks that are in the later parts of their life. They can tell you the secret to life is to what? Be present. Don't waste time. Don't waste time around people that you don't want to be around. Don't waste time on jobs that aren't going to be fulfilling and lead to something in your life. So always keep that perspective. I know you've heard that before, but it's so important, and it's equally important to remember that on a somewhat regular basis, because it's so easy to get caught up in the rat race of life.
Yeah, definitely.
I have to ditto that.
Yeah.
I don't think I could say it any better. I think that's perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I know that our listeners will get so much value from this episode. So where can we find you on social media?
At Katie Hough, FBBC.
Trainer Tom, FBBC, and then also Richardson, FBBC, and Richardson Fit Body Bootcamp.
Yeah.
Follow along. You want some inspiration, some motivation, seeing our members rank up and hit all these amazing milestones and give their testimonials to get you moving in the right direction with your fitness, then go ahead and give us a follow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And also, if you're interested in attending a Fit Body Bootcamp session, just go to fitbodybootcamp.com, type in your zip code, and you will see which location is closest to you. Thank you again for listening to another episode of the Beyond the Scale podcast. As always, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Thanks so much, you guys.